Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the final day of Carers Week. And I think it's very apt that we end with a session about, from all our Carers Week sessions, that we end with a session about caring for the carer. This is going to be led by Annie from Autism and ADHD. Just a few housekeeping things before we get started, though. So if you have questions for Annie or comments that you want to make, please use the Q&A. The chat is actually disabled for this session. If you wish to make a comment or ask a question anonymously, you will see that you can toggle the little thing that says anonymize, which means that your name will not show in the Q&A. If you wish to use closed captions, that's also an option for you. It doesn't affect anybody else. If you look at the top of your screen and you can see the more button with the three little dots, go through there and you will find your route to that. Just a couple of other things. I've got Becky helping out in the background. She'll be putting your questions into the chat, into the Q&A. She'll also post in there. She'll post in there my email address, which you can contact me for a handout from today's session. There's also here. We are asking for feedback from our sessions. It's so important to us that we meet the needs of our civil service caring community. And the only way we really know that we're doing that is to get your feedback. You can either access the feedback form from this QR code, or Becky will put the link to it into the chat a couple of times during the session. So thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks to CareTech for supporting it. And I'm now going to stop sharing my screen and hand straight over to Annie.
Okay. Thanks, Kath. There we go. It's always a big relief once the tech's sorted. So I'll just move myself down here a little bit so you can see. So it's an absolute pleasure to be here and deliver this training for you today. It's been an incredible week that civil service have put on for everybody with all these different trainings, and I hope the final one equally is what you were after. So welcome, and just so to give you a quick overview, today we're going to be looking at the following: recognising the realities of caring, understanding burnout through a neurodivergent lens, and creating sustainable strategies for your health and well-being. And just to say that as much as we're said about this being a training for neurodivergence, it's actually very, very relevant to every single carer. And the subject is something that affects so many of us, not just here in the UK, but globally, being in a caring role. And I'm hoping that this will raise some issues, be able to validate some of the experiences that some of you are carrying, and give you different things to move forward to help things get a bit better and easier. So why does this matter to me in particular? And it is something I'm really, really passionate about, is looking after carers. And even today, I was working with a family this morning, and one of the first things I say is very much about, so how are you guys doing? And every time I will get, you're the only person that's asked me that. So yes, we may have been asked to support the child in the family, but we're supporting a whole family. Those families are struggling as a whole. And so that's something that's very important to me, that we check in and ask how mum and dad are doing too, or husband and wife are doing. I'm also a parent of 3 neurodivergent children, one of whom is 24/7 care, Tom, our middle son, which quite a few of you will hear me talk about a lot. I'm also a grandparent of 3 neurodivergent children, and soon to be a great grandparent as well in October, which is very exciting, of a little girl. I'm the founder and CEO of Autism and ADHD, which is a not-for-profit that works globally, supporting families, adults, and delivering training to anyone in the community that will, quite frankly, listen. I'm a professional supporting families globally for 35 plus years, obviously a carer in my own right, caring for my children. I've also had a period of time where I cared for my dad. Clearly an advocate and fighting for change, and very much someone who has experienced burnout herself, and being able to spot that coming at you is really, really important. And hopefully we'll be able to show you some things today that will start raising red flags for you as a carer, that maybe are just something needs to change here. So these are some of my gang, not all of my gang, I have to say, but some of them. Tom is here. We were going to a Star Wars movie, so of course he had to wear a Star Wars t-shirt, goes without saying. And what I love about this other photo and Tom is everyone's smiling. It's not how it is every day that all of my lot are smiling by a long shot. And I think it's important to remember that whilst Tom may be the only one of all of them that is now at home with Pete and I, that all the other people in this picture still need to be cared for, in inverted commas. That relationship changes and gets different as they get older, but they're still all neurodivergent and need support at various points in their world. And I think that's something to bear in mind, that a lot of people who are not in this role don't necessarily understand that this is a lifetime thing. It doesn't stop and start, it keeps going. And therefore we need to know how to look after ourselves long term, not just in the short term. So who are today's carers? When you look at that list, it's pretty much everyone, isn't it? Parents and family carers, partners and spouses, siblings who are carers. I think we forget that sometimes. Young carers, professionals who are also carers. Many carers may themselves be neurodivergent, and you've also got parents, carers that are professionals in their job role too, and it is different, and I think it's important to recognise that. So why does it feel so intense? I think we are very good at hiding what it is that we do, pretending everything is fine, but it's important to really look at what it is and value it, because it helps us validate ourselves and the job that we're doing, even though it will be doing from a point of care and love for maybe someone that we are related to. It's still a very intense process. So there is an emotional labour. It isn't just necessarily physical care. And it's also the constant vigilance. So it was a bit of a standard joke when Tom was small that I never got to go and pee on my own. I always had to take Tom with me. I could never leave him in the car to go and pay for fuel, because he was the escape artist of incredible skill, and he would get out of his car seat, and we had one occasion where he let the handbrake off in the car. So I always had to take Tom with me there. And I think that is sometimes the biggest part that can be really difficult. Even this morning, a family who had put their son to bed because he was saying he was tired, and they were reading, in their room, reading a book and what have you, and suddenly realised there was someone knocking on the door, and looked out the window and it was their next door neighbour. And she was like, I wonder why my next door neighbour's banging on my front door at this time. And it was because her next door neighbour has seen that her son had tried to get out of his bedroom window. And obviously she said there was no noise, we didn't hear him moving about or anything like that. And so she said it's another place now that we've got to keep an eye on, that maybe we thought was safe, and obviously putting locks on windows and this sort of thing. And certainly with Tom, when he was younger, we had locks on all our doors. It was like walking around like a jailer. All the keys were on, like a clip that we wore on our waistbands. But there's only so many ways you can be vigilant without going down that route. It's not something we need now, but we certainly needed it when he was small. The sensory overwhelm works both ways. So if we are neurodivergent ourselves, we are dealing with sensory overwhelm in our own right, but we're also dealing with the sensory overwhelm of the people that we are caring for. Many of you caring for adults where that diagnosis may have come late might not have a full picture of what that individual's sensory needs are, and that can be really confusing and not knowing what to do. I think it's something that's really important to remember is many people will be caring without knowing that they are caring for elderly neurodivergent adults, and therefore that presentation, we know the connection with dementia and Alzheimer's and neurodivergence, they're all neurobiological disorders. And it can mean that things that maybe were reasonably steady, as things become more complicated from a dementia perspective, can make those things even bigger. And all of a sudden it's like, I don't understand what this is. And I think that's important to remember, that maybe there was some neurodivergence there that we missed. We learn to mask and carry on. But remember, the person we're caring for is also potentially masking, or even the reverse of that, where maybe you've known that person for a long time and without knowing that they were masking, and they might have not been aware themselves that they were. And all of a sudden, as their care needs increase, they're not able to mask in the same way. And you might be seeing a slightly different presentation, a slightly different person than you were used to. And that can be really difficult, especially when you're then trying to suppress how you feel, make out to everybody that you're fine. And these are all the things that build up to a burnout situation. Excuse me. Navigating systems, social care, health, legal systems, financial systems, all of these things suddenly come into play in a way that maybe you weren't expecting or prepared for or feel qualified to do. And we have so many of our community start facing what we call advocacy fatigue. Like, I can't fill in another form. I just can't go to another meeting. I can't deal with another call from social care. I'm just exhausted by it. So it's not just the physical care, it's all the back end stuff that we are doing at the same time. It can be a very lonely place. And that, I think, gets missed a lot or disregarded. And the social life that you had may slowly decrease, or the social life that you're able to access suddenly becomes quite restricted. And finding your community can be difficult. I think that's one of the things that the internet and social media can help with, in that we can connect with people online and have conversations on Zoom if it's not something where we can leave the home or go out. And it does increase our social circle in that respect, and that's obviously got big benefits. But there are also lots of times when it's just us. Even if you're in a couple like my husband and I are and caring for our son, there can be times when it's like, oh, we haven't seen anyone for ages, other than our other children. And the other children are fine, don't get me wrong, but it's not the same as connecting maybe with other adult couples who don't have that role, and we lose that connection. Or if you are in a couple caring, you tend to go out singularly because you can't find sitters to look after them while both of you go out together. And so one of you might go out to meet a friend, or one of you might go out for a walk, but you don't both go out. And so it ripples out across your life if you're not careful. Judgment from other people, and equally how we judge ourselves about the quality of care that we're providing. And that horrible, but am I doing enough thought tunnel? Am I doing enough? Should I be doing more? Should I be calling more? Should I be making adjustments more? Should I be putting up with this? Should I be challenging that? And all of this is intense, as it says in the title, but it's also exhausting. And this is where the burnout starts to build. And it's why, as much as it can be quite difficult to face sides like this, thinking, oh my word, I am dealing all with these things, almost by allowing it to come out, you can then start to look at it strategically and think, so what can we do differently? What do I need? What help do I need? How can I ask for the help? How can I feel if I ask for help that I'm not making a fuss, or that people will think I can't care and therefore that person needs to go into care. And so it's important to look and then look at how we move forward from there. So these are the hidden things that get not talked about very much. So putting everybody else's needs first instead of your own, becoming the person to go to for everybody. I've certainly fell into that trap with my gang, and realized that I needed to step back, and not just because of my own need of needing to step back and be concentrating on one person, but their need as well of allowing them to become more self-sufficient and independent in being able to solve their problems and move forward, so that I wasn't always available. And that was hard. I'm not sitting here saying that was easy for me to do that, because it wasn't. But there was a relationship shift from being their mum who cared for everything and did everything and solved everything, to be a mum who I want to spend time with and have a coffee. All right. So shifting that relationship took some work, and because they're neurodivergent, made them feel a bit wobbly for a little while. But once they understood and grasped this in, they become more on board, and it's moved forward really well. Hypervigilance. You're constantly on edge, watching, looking, like the mum this morning with the child going out of the bedroom window. You have to be vigilant all the time in some situations, and that disrupts our nervous system. It's like you're living on eggshells all the time. What's going to happen next? What's going to happen? So Tom was very much interested in fire, for example, and we did catch him one morning where he'd got up before us and we hadn't heard him. Luckily, my husband always used to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning anyway for his job, and Tom we still don't entirely know how he'd done it, but he'd learned somehow to turn the oven on, to put a piece of paper on the top of the drill, set fire to the piece of paper, and he was just sitting there waving it because he liked to watch it. And it had literally, as Pete was walking through the living room, it just caught fire of the kitchen curtains and would have gone up if it hadn't been for the fact that there was water in the washing up bowl from the night before from the washing up, and Pete was just able to cover Tom and the curtain, and it was all over and done with very quickly. But that just generates that whole hypervigilant state of everything needing to be out of reach. Don't leave that there, put that away, etc., can be exhausting too. Many of us exist on poor sleep because of waking in the evening. Again, the hypervigilant state can mean that we're not fully asleep, we're sort of half asleep, just listening. As we've already spoken about, the loss of independence can be hard. Financial pressures, navigating systems, guilt when resting, like, oh, I need to sit down. Oh, but no, I can't. I need to go and do something. I'll get back to that later. No, and that's feeding into the burnout situation, that sense of feeling responsible for everything. And like I just touched on earlier, feeling like you're no longer a mum, a wife, or a husband, you're just a carer. And the thing is, they need us to be a mum or a wife or a husband. And so what do we need to put in place to facilitate that, to allow that to move forward? Now, those of you that know my training as well will know we talk about the 4 foundation blocks of neurodivergence, but it is important to realise that this is why we use them, that the 4 blocks feed everything, whether it's about caring or sleep or whatever, we always come back to the blocks. So emotional overwhelm, the imagination fracture, which is executive functioning, language of assumption, which is the communication issue, and sensory processing. And like I said, even if you're here listening, not from a neurodivergent perspective, these things are still very, very relevant to what it is that you need to be feeding into. So what does burnout really look like? The thing is, it's not just exhaustion. And so if we were to go back to this slide again, all of these link together very much so. In past years, we would have thought they were very independent of each other. We now know that's not the case. So if your executive functioning is overwhelmed and not and causing distress, it will then create an issue with a sensory processing presentation. You then become emotionally overwhelmed and your brain starts to go into what's called a paralysis, and then the communication issues kick in off the back of it. It's like a flow, and they are all connected together. And I think that's why in the past we've always found it quite hard to work out what it is that's going on. But now we understand that it's like a row of dominoes where you then click them and they all suddenly fall over one after the other. This is exactly what this is. One starts, the other starts, the other starts, the other starts. Okay. So that's why it's not just exhaustion, it's all of those things. That's where the loss of functioning comes in, where you're just too tired to cook, too tired to do laundry, too tired to just watch the TV even sometimes, because those four things are meshed together. The sensory issues get bigger. When we're tired, the noise becomes more of an issue. The feel of things on our skin becomes more of an issue. All of those just build and build and build. We can shut down, withdraw. The emotional overwhelm can sometimes be really excessive. So we might cry at the drop of a hat, move forward get angry quicker. The chronic guilt and hypervigilance just builds and builds and builds. And that feeling of being constantly alert. All of these things are red flags of I'm heading into a burnout and I need to take a step back, get some support, work out what it is that's going on and how I can move forward. The thing is, that survival thing in the end becomes your normal. And I have been there, that you're functioning on adrenaline, maybe eating. So you start doing things in extreme. So eat too much, not at all. Sleep too much, not at all. You're living in this space, but because nothing's addressing it and it just keeps coming, it becomes your normal. Right. So you're constantly firefighting, normalizing that. Oh yeah, I'm a bit tired, but I'm always a bit like that. Losing sight of your own needs and believing burnout is just part of caring. One of my big red flags is my self-care goes out of the window. So I suddenly realize I haven't showered for a couple of days or even haven't brushed my teeth or whatever. And it's like, oh, here we go. So look for what your little red flags are. What is it that's suddenly starting to come apart a little bit? Like I say, for me, it's very much about my self-care. But I've suddenly realized I'm not cooking food. I haven't done the laundry. I haven't worn clean clothes for 2 or 3 days. And it's like, hang on a minute, I'm falling down that tunnel again. Let me just stop, breathe and refresh and evaluate where it is where's the gap gone. All right. So that we can pull back. So when caring never stops, I think this is when it's hard. All right. You then end up in this space. All right. So specifically for lifelong caring roles, right, we're in with our son, and I'm not complaining about that, but it is just a reality. When it's 24/7 care, when you still have to have that hypervigilance overnight, or they may have care needs at night, either helping them to the bathroom or keeping them safe, making sure they haven't walked out the front door. All of those things kick in. Adult children with high support needs. I think lots of people think it's about elderly people and children, but there's this big group of people in the middle, all right, that need care. And I think that gets missed a lot, actually. There could be a complex disability. It's not just one thing. So it could be autism and a physical disability that requires a wheelchair, or needing help with toileting, or have got issues with sleep. All of these things feed into this situation. Sleep disruption, future worries. Oh my lordy, how long have we got? I think there are a growing number of us who are extremely worried about the future of our adult neurodivergent children and what is going to happen when we are no longer here. Now, this is a global issue. It isn't just here. There are other countries that are potentially a bit further forward than us, but there are also countries that are even worse situation than we're in. And sadly, an awful lot of focus is placed on education and the worries that we have there without looking at this bit here, all right, about what happens when we're no longer here. And the quality of adult care, not just for neurodivergent people, but for lots of other people too, and where that goes, and equally end of life care too. And we're very aware that no one talks about end of life care for neurodivergent people. It's another one of those areas that no one's really touching, and something that we've got on our radar to have a look at this year, as well as caring for neurodivergent people that have got cancer, for example, any of those sort of conditions, and where do we work with that? So any of you that have got experience with that or would like to share things with us that you feel might help us with us putting together both a challenge to the system, but equally how we can help families that are in that situation, we would love to hear from you. So you've also got this, when the carer is also neurodivergent. So that's me and my husband. We're both neurodivergent. I've got ADHD. My husband's autistic. And so that's where the burnout can become even more of an issue. Also being able to understand how to approach a situation where our own, remember the 4 blocks where they all link together? They're linking together for us too. And like we'll often have when I'm exhausted or when I'm really overwhelmed, my child or my partner mirrors my overwhelm. We hear that a lot. So how do I manage that? And the thing is, it's about coming back to basics. So much of this is about going back to basics around, I need to learn to understand myself more. I need to understand what my sensory triggers are. I need to understand what my daily routine needs to look like, because if I don't do that, if I don't look after my own neurodivergence and my own overwhelm, then I am going to be struggling to move forward and care for the person that I'm here to care for, which is where this hidden struggles behind competence comes in, where we're looking very on board, we're organised, we're sorry, but there's an awful lot going on underneath, a bit like that whole swan on the surface, but our legs are going crazy underneath. And that's what gives us the burnout. And sadly, we're in a situation at the moment where there's a huge number of people that we would perhaps go to for help within statutory sector or care provision that wouldn't necessarily understand that well, which is another area that needs attention. The double empathy, if you're not sure what that means, if you yourself is neurodivergent, but your partner is neurotypical, that's when the double empathy kicks in, where one person with neurodivergence doesn't understand the emotional and empathy side of how somebody neurotypical responds, and the neurotypical person doesn't understand how the neurodivergent person expresses emotion, and the confusion that can happen in a relationship with that can be massive. And it's exactly the same if you're a neurotypical carer with a neurodivergent child or vice versa, right? So understanding that at greater depth is something that we will be doing some trainings on later on in the year. So keep an eye out for that, because again, it's another one of those things that are significant that we need to understand in relation to care, but at the moment is not being talked about a lot. So difficulty asking for support comes into that. They're going to think I can't cope. They're going to take them away. They're going to put more care in than we need, or they're going to think I'm making a big fuss and make a judgment of me. All right. And so I think the difficulty asking support is for everybody. When it comes to neurodivergence, it's even bigger. The whole rejection sensitive dysphoria can kick in on, but they're going to look at me negatively. That's going to make me feel bad. So I just won't say anything and I'll keep going. Right. And if we've not been shown ourselves how our neurodivergence impacts on us, especially as adults with late diagnosis, because basically diagnosis by, then it's difficult for you then to experience self-compassion and what it is that you need to do. So seeking support from organisations like ourselves, or using social media, or using AI, and using just Google it in a wide space, exploring different books and explanations, all of those things help us move forward into a space of self-compassion for ourselves, and being able to put boundaries in for ourselves about how our day needs to look, to enable us to not be masking and feeling more able to ask for support, because we're more able to put that together about what it is that we need. And very often that support can be something really simple, not anything major. And we're going to talk a bit more about those sorts of things as we move forward. So I want to take 5 minutes and just talk about young carers in neurodivergent families. We see this a lot in the work that we do. And many people don't realize within their families just how much of an emotional caring role one child might be having for another, or be pushing from another equally, where you might have a neurodivergent child that is constantly asking for things of their sibling, and parents may just be like, oh, they're fine, they're just playing, or they're just doing that. But actually the responsibility that many of them feel can be huge, and this hyper responsibility can be normalized in the same way that it can be normalized for us. It's just like, this is my life, I just got to get used to it. Yes, I look after my brother, yes, I look after my mum, but this is normal in our house. I don't know anything different. And school attendance, well-being may be impacted. Again, we see it a lot. One of the sad things that we see also is that they might be really struggling. For example, could be really being bullied at school for whatever reason, because bullying makes no sense to anybody other than the perpetrator, unfortunately. And they don't tell anyone. And when someone may pick it up in school and go, well, why haven't you told your mum? It's like, my mum's got enough to deal with my little brother. I'm not going to get her worrying about me too. And so they will hide it. So being able to really be open with the other family members in the house, because this doesn't just make a difference around children. We've obviously got other adult carers in families too. So whilst you may be primary carer, and maybe your partner's still going out to work and bringing the money in and keeping a roof over your head, they may have issues as well that they're not coming home and sharing with you because you've got enough to deal with. And so we need to find that balance and keep those lines of communication well and truly open. We find evenings work really well for that. We don't talk to children when they come home from school, same as we give ourselves a bit of a breather. Maybe you come home and say, just give me a minute and let me make a cup of tea. Right? Children need that same space. After school collapse is very real, but after work collapse is very real too. So no questions when they first come in the door. That isn't where it happens. Conversations tend to happen as we used to get a lot of information about their day when they were in the bath, or that last bit of time before bed, supper time, if you like, where and making that a bit of a routine about sitting down and having a drink and a piece of toast or whatever for bed. Their brains have come down from that overwhelm of the day. Same for you as a carer, as an adult, and for your other adults in the house. It's gone a bit like this, and therefore your head space has come back. Remember the paralysis we talked about earlier? Being able to rebalance that is important. So you're then able to hold a conversation about, actually, I'm really struggling with this, or this happened today, and sharing things with our children about how our day has gone in a sensible way, not in a dramatic way, makes them feel safer about sharing how their day has been. And if they've had a rough day, or that they're being bullied in school, or actually I'm really tired. And they need permission sometimes to talk about their brothers and sisters in a way that they think, I'll get told off if I say, actually, I really don't like it when he does that to me. He hits me, I need that to stop. And they won't say it because they think they're being horrible to their brother who needs a lot of care. And so I think the words we use around our children are important. Looking at them as a whole group instead of separating them out. Going, or you mustn't say that to him because he's special, or why does he get away with things and I don't? And it's not about getting away with them. It's just that we handle those situations differently. Having communication boards at home can be really important. And what I mean by that is like a whiteboard on the wall, and putting things on there that might seem a bit strange, but it's about trying to bring the family together around that care and responsibility that's there, and that everybody here is caring for each other. It's not just everybody caring for one person, right? Everybody in the house needs care, and it can be when mum gets overwhelmed, she needs us to just allow her to go for a walk in the garden. When dad gets overwhelmed, which is what happens in this house, he takes the dog for a walk. Right? When Tom gets overwhelmed, he needs to be able to support to lay flat on the floor because it really helps to stabilize his system, and do his deep breathing that he's been taught. So those things are on a board, all right, so that everybody knows what everybody else needs. And we've normalized supporting someone who's overwhelmed because everybody's being supported. Having the menu up for the week, letting you know where everybody is today, which for Tom is actually really important, even for his brothers and sisters that don't live here anymore. He needs to know where they are today. Obviously, we don't ring them up every morning, but there is a general thing about, you know, your sisters at work, your brothers in Norfolk today. Do you know what I mean? He feels he needs that connection. When he has that connection, his system gets less overwhelmed, which means he needs less care during the day. Right? So these things become important. He's also learned about caring for his dad when his autism starts to get buzzy, and equally for me, because it's on the board so he can see it. And those things are important, especially when we're looking at whole families with young carers that are responsible. So, importance of partnership. Boy, is this hard at the moment. Okay, this is very much our focus for the next 12 months, is about creating partnerships and improving communication between families, education, employers, services, because at the moment we're living in a country where these relationships are full of conflict. So families are fighting with schools are fighting with families, services are fighting for this, so it's all pushing against each other. And the training that we're delivering out there in the world over the next 12 months is very much bringing this into the conversation about helping this, because many of you are carers and working. Many of you are going home to a caring role at the end of the day, and you need your employer to understand that, and they need to understand how to support you. Right? So this bit for us is becoming really important. Caring shouldn't happen in isolation, but we know that it does time and time and time again. So the more all of us can look at how we can deal with that better, the better it is moving forward. We need to listen better to lived experience about what it's like to be in this space, because it can be hard. And at the moment, that lived experience can be pushed under the table. And it's like, well, we haven't got a professional version of that. Listen to these guys, please. All right. It's really, really important. And equally in your own situation, value that. No, the children, and this doesn't necessarily fall under it, but as a way of explaining it, children that are going, I feel really sick when I get into school, and then you get teachers, oh, they've been fine. Don't do that. Don't diminish somebody else's experience. Right? It's really important to listen, value it, and because, as the next line says, that shared responsibility is what helps to reduce the burnout. The communication boards, we know from the way that we develop those and introduce those into the family work that we do, the number of families go, just that thing has just changed the way that we all communicate with each other. And that's the same within a caring situation. Those things happen because relationship approaches build trust and resilience. You need to know people in the room have got your back, that they value you, they listen to you, and they validate you. And that includes the person who potentially is being cared for, not just about you as a carer, right? So looking at how you exist and communicate is crucial. When Tom was younger, we were very much in what would now be called a child to parent violence situation. Certainly not how we would refer to it now, and it's certainly not our experience here now either. But that can feel really hard, all right? And I want you to hear that, the stuff that we do from an organizational perspective, we understand all this. My entire team are neurodivergent and living this day to day, living with children that at the moment their systems are so dysregulated that it comes across in a very physical response. But equally, adult children, adults in their own right, because of their neurodivergence not being understood when they were younger, has been left to become challenging. And we know what it is, we live it every day, and we've got a lot of understanding about how to be. So there is a partnership for us with those people that we work with. And equally, we then try and build partnerships for them with statutory service and schools and employers, because that's the way that it needs to go. So neurodivergent accessible strategies help everybody. So clear communication is crucial. Visuals to help with the communication barrier. So like we said about the communication board, but equally, this is what's happening today. This is the order we're doing them in. All of those things matter. Okay. And the more we can build those visual resources in, the easier it is for everybody to be able to function and for your burnout to be lessened and control, right? So the predictability about what's happening. So having lunch at the same time as much as you can. And also that lunchtime looks, so if you find the nutrition training that we did on Wednesday when they all come out on record, then watch that. It will help enormously. All of the trainers that are available on the civil service portal that we've done will help you with all of this. Okay, so as much as we're talking about care today, all the other stuff feeds into it. All right. Sensory aware environments can reduce some of the overwhelm for you as well as the person you're caring about. And accessible systems benefit all families and professionals. And the communication board is part of that. It's about that. It's about how your rooms are organised. It isn't just about one room being sensory safe. It's about your whole house having a review. And again, there are people that can help you with that, to look at how you move that forward. So reducing that cognitive load is important, and planning for recovery time. That's where sometimes I think people that are caring 24/7 can really struggle, because it's like, well, how do I get a break? How do I move forward? All right. And we'll come to that in a second. Budgeting your energy. So how do you pace it over the day so you're not constantly moving? Looking at your own health care. All right. I can relate to that personally enormously. My health went on the back burner for a long time. I ended up in a 3-month burnout, but also my physical health suffered, my mental health suffered. I've just had 6 months of really stepping back and looking after my physical health, and I'm feeling so much better because I've done that. And when I look back on it now, they're all things that I just let drop when I was younger and when the kids were small. And I didn't go to the dentist. I didn't go to the doctors if this hurt or whatever, because I used to think, well, I can't because I've got to look after them. I paid a price for that, and I don't want you to pay a price for that too. And permission, give yourself permission, all right, to lower those non-essential demands. Don't do the laundry every day. Don't hoover every day. All of those things. Just stop. Okay. And really look at where can I move some of these things away. We work on our house that it has to be good enough. That's our version of tidy, right? Tidy and clean is good enough. Perfection is sometimes really not where we need to be. So recognizing those early warning signs of burnout are, like I say, for me, it's very much about personal care, but also you start to become less patient. You've not got the emotional capacity in the same way. Your shutdown has increased, your overwhelm's getting bigger, you have difficulty getting started with tasks, your delay, oh, I can't be bothered to cook tea, oh, I don't want to do that, oh, I can't write that letter. All of those things are little red flags, okay? Your sleep's more disruptive. I track my sleep because it's something that I've learned is very important for me. And my sleep was appalling, mainly because Tom didn't really sleep as a child at all. He slept from 1 till 2, till 4 till 5, until he was 10 years old. So my body got used to no sleep. I now know that was a bad thing, but I think it's helping us understand what it is. So I track my sleep. It's something that I'm very aware of. You're starting to withdraw from your support networks. The people that, oh, I can't come to that today, I'm really sorry, or this, that, and the other. Let them come to you. Do coffee mornings at your place, not necessarily always expecting you to go out. And physical and mental begins to deteriorate. Your physical and mental health starts to go down. Sorry, there's a word missing there. And you will spot it, but we tend to ignore it. Please don't ignore it. All right, acknowledge it and see how you can move forward. So all of these things on here, you'll know, all right? Resilience is not pushing through. Resilience is going, I'm not doing very well at the moment and I need to take a break, or I need to, and by take a break, I don't necessarily mean step away completely. It's like, how can I build those little breaks in across my day? They're there more than you might think they are, but we tend to rush around and do something else. So there could be a little lull, maybe where someone's having a rest in the afternoon. You suddenly think, oh, I'll run around and do the laundry. Oh, I've got to hoover the hall. I've got to sit. right? Just sit and read or do a jigsaw, whatever your thing is that helps to re-regulate that. Small, consistent supports are more sustainable and better for you than one big, long one. Say this to families all the time. The holiday breaks are great, but holidays in itself can be exhausting. Think about your lunch break. What do you do? Do you stop for lunch? Do you actually sit and stop and eat your lunch? Or are you eating while you're walking around? Right? So how do you use that time when you're driving? You might think that's a bit weird, but always make sure I've got my music on and do anything, and I can chill out a bit in the car because I know everyone in the car is safe. All right. So those things are important. And the long plan planning reduces crisis cycles, which includes taking care of your own health. So where do we go with planning ahead? All right. It's very much an act of love, and it's hard. Very, very hard to get your head around the fact that we've got to do long-term planning, but future planning reduces that anxiety and worry about what happens to me, right? Benefits and entitlement awareness is important. Transition planning is important. Signposting to specialist support. Please go on MenCap or Google MenCap Trusts and Wills. They do a free training. It is excellent, and it will really help you see the types of paperwork and planning that needs to go in now. All right, so that you are ahead of the game, and some of that anxiety and worry about but what happens if starts to reduce. Talk to social care around transition planning as well, and because they're all things that need to come into play. Permissions. So what are the permissions? What are you able to do? What are you looking at for housing? Those of you that live in rented accommodation may be able to transfer ownership of the house over to the person that you're, caring for, so that they at least have a house, and then you can put everything else around that. But look at your contract with your housing provider and see where you stand with that. Speak to people about the legal and financial considerations. That's why you need to go on the MenCap training, because it is, I said, it's excellent. They need a will as well as you. What's going to happen to their stuff? Tom, my son's got the biggest Lego collection in the world, right? So what's happening to all of his lovely things that meant so much to him in his world? Where do they get donated to? Where are they going to get directed to? What does they want as far as that's concerned? Look at their life insurance. Seek out direct payments. If you go in, direct payments for, and then whatever your council is that you live, and it will give you information about what you need with that. There is an amazing book called Planning with Love by Rhiannon Goff, right? It's here. And she literally breaks everything down for you under what the current legislation is. So please have a look at it. It's been a godsend for us in our family, and I would recommend it to anybody. You can get it on Amazon, as you might expect, but that one's important. But there's also the emotional stuff too, about who's going to share that responsibility, building support networks around you, having conversations maybe with children, extended family, looking at where you can employ those carers from. Do we need to employ them now so that everything's in place should XYZ happens? Having a crisis management plan or a book. We've got a folder that's got everything in it about what happens if this happens, you need to do this. If this happens, because I'm very conscious of the fact that my children potentially would be dealing with that initially, even if not longer term, and they've all got neurodivergence themselves. All right, so the plan is really important. Planning a funeral for them, looking at where their possessions, like Tom's Lego, all right, and what are the wider family needs about being able to deal with that. All of my lot are neurodivergent. They need the plan there. They need to know the plan. They need to know where to find it so that everything is there for them. Here are some recommended websites for you to access. These guys are all great and will help you with certain different things maybe. So it's worth looking at all of the websites. Quickly screenshot it. I'll give you a couple of minutes if you want to do that. And equally, you'll be able to have it in the recording. Remember, caring is a relationship, and with all relationships, they need nurture, boundaries, repair, support, and time. All right. Caring should not mean losing yourself, even though so often it does. And I've certainly been there myself, and it's not nice. And you have to pull yourself back into it, lessons learned and all the rest of it. And so it's something that we can really help you with. We are preparing a booklet for you to have based off the back of this, with more information and support and strategies and resources in it. So look out for that next week when everything gets sent out to you. So maybe have a quick reflection at the end. What's one thing you carry alone that could be shared? What support would genuinely reduce your load, and what would be good enough what would good enough look like this week? Like I was saying, it's what our house is good enough. And the key message: burnout is understandable, not failure. Please remember that. All right. ND informed support changes outcomes. Accessible environments help everybody. Caring for yourself supports caring for others. And partnership and compassion matter. Perfection isn't the goal. Sometimes success looks like raising good people, doing your best, and nobody gets arrested. Right. The reason I put that on there, it's a bit of a funny thing that we have with our children. I always say, I know I've done a good job with my kids because then nobody got arrested. Right, so that's my little benchmark that was really important. My kids have never been arrested, so I'll take that as a win. It's a bit of a family in joke, but hopefully it made you smile. So closing slide is this. Thanks so much for listening, genuinely. It's such a big area to cover, which is why we're creating the workbook for you as well, with other bits of information and things for you to take away. You can keep in touch with us by signing up for our newsletter, which will give you all the information about our trainings that we do, as well as lots of the other stuff that we do. And you can find us on social media by going to that straightforward, really easy link, which is Autism and ADHD 1. There are lots of different ways that we can support you, even through the charity as well. So I hope you found today helpful, and that you will continue to access us somewhere along the line. There we go.
Becky, brought you on by mistake. Thank you so much, Annie, for that very personal and, well, so much content in as well. And I could see as we were going through it, lots and lots of love shown for you, both in the chat and in the reactions. I think what you've said has resonated with a lot of people this afternoon. There's lots in the chat. Some things are just comments rather than questions. And I'm also just going to say that there are several questions that are really about what leave you can get from your employer. I mean, I do think that those questions are probably better taken back to your employer, or you might want to contact some of the networks in the civil service as well. There's the carers network, the young adult carers network. I believe there's a network I was given a name yesterday, Helen Busby, a network for, somebody described it as a network for parents of SEN children or something like that.
I will find some things out and put them in the book that will come out on next week. I think that would be good. They're things, that's why I said please ask questions, because otherwise we don't know what it is that you need. So it's important.
Yes, so that's great, but there will be support within your workplace about that. So, and then some people I've just found, well, I won't read out all the kind of comments, but somebody there really saying to you about when you were talking about Tom's escape plans. I've been there too, 18 months of my son escaping and running away, lock picking, even after we changed locks and put in place additional locks. Yeah. There's a question here. Do you help with getting adults diagnosed neurodivergent?
Do we help?
Yeah.
Sadly not. What we can do, though, which I think is really important, we can support you while you're looking. Okay. And because for us, it's not about a piece of paper, it's about the person, and what does that person need now, and what do you need maybe if you're caring for that person. And so we would be looking at helping you understand exactly what it is that's going on and why, and what we can do about it. We don't need that piece of paper. So no, we don't do the assessment, but we can help you right now. We're not like waiting for the magic thing to come through.
And probably just for me to add to that, if you're interested in some one-to-one support from Annie's organisation, but you're not able to afford to pay for anything, if you make a financial application to the charity, we may be able to assist. With that. Somebody here asking a question about about preempting and preventing something happen. Do we preempt and prevent something happening, or do we allow things to occur? So this person has said that they are hypervigilant and constantly on edge, whereas their partner thinks that maybe they should relax a bit because they're creating and worrying problems that might not occur.
I think that's a really good question, actually. I think some of it is people always talk about prevention's better than a cure, don't they? I think it's hard to preempt everything. You just can't. It's impossible to do that. I think it's about taking a step back and thinking, like we were saying about good enough, have I made the environment safe enough that I can take my foot off the pedal a little bit? Is that, like the locks on the doors and being a bit more security conscious, depending on what the actual issue is. I think you cannot preempt it. It's the health and safety side of the work, I think, is tricky because it's really difficult to risk assess when you don't know where it's going to come from next. But it is about, is it safe enough? Like, we've obviously got children that get fascinated with taking things out of drawers, put locks on the drawers. It's more of a safety mechanism and trying to, so that you're not needing to be as hyper vigilant as maybe you would have been if you hadn't have done the risk assessment of the environment. It's hard. You're never going to hit all of it. But yeah, risk assess first would be my suggestion.
I'm going to ask a couple more questions quickly, Annie, but I just want to say
No, it's fine.
That really appreciating the honesty and openness of people in the chat. There's lots of really difficult situations
Bless your heart.
And I'm probably not going to do anyone justice because we're not going to have a chance to get to them all. And unfortunately, with this setup, we don't have access to the questions after the end of the meeting. So I would say, to reach out to Annie's organisation or to us if you would like some support from there. But as I said, if you would need some help with the funding for that, you can also reach out to us and we can arrange for a year's membership without any cost to you as well. So, but quite a lot of people talking about, about being in these kind of unmanageable situations, and if they stop, it would just be extremely difficult and how to cope with those kind of things. And I don't know, I would say that might be a time when you do need to reach out.
Yes, definitely. It's hard. No, I think we were thrown the autism curveball, if you like, in a time when nobody knew anything. Back in the 90s, the knowledge was not there, where everybody was learning together. And we all know, those of us that were in that time zone, there were things that we'd done that we wouldn't dream of doing now. You know what I mean? Because we know so much more. And some of those at times can make you feel a bit sick. Do you know, God, I can't believe we'd done that. Why would we have thought that was okay? But that was what we'd got. And I think we're always going to be in that space that because we just don't know. It's a complicated situation, whether it's neurodivergence or anything else that you're caring for. We're all flying by the seat of our bum most of the time, to be fair, both in how we look after ourselves and how we look after that person. Again, it's about being able to take that step back and go, I'm doing the best I can here under the situation. Do I need more support? If so, where do I get it? And how do I navigate that to feel that I'm not failing because I have support because I'm failing? I think that the mindset of it is crucial. Did I have days when my kids were small, even now up to a point, where I just wanted to lay in bed with a quilt off my head and not get up? Yes, absolutely. All right. But there's something magical that happens somewhere where you finally put your feet on the floor and you stand up and you get going. And once you've got going, you'll get on with the rest of the day. But it's can be hard. And I think being able to say that out loud is actually really important. And I hope some of what we've talked about today has provided some validation about what that is, that you're allowed to say, I'm really upset today. I can't do this today. I can't whatever today. Because if we don't do that, the people around us think we're fine. And that's not a good place for any of us to be in.
Yes, there's always the danger, isn't it, that you become the go-to person, or
that been there. It's not funny.
No, that's right. I do think we're going to have to kind of really wind up, Annie, and I am sorry for everybody whose questions we've missed. But as I said, really encourage you to reach out to the charity, to Autism and ADHD, to access some support. But I think really from all the reactions that we've had, that it really has been very validating.
Can I just say a little something as well? If you sign up for the newsletter, and I know that might sound quite a trivial thing to do in some respects, but it will give you access to our monthly trainings, which are only a tenner, okay? And they get recorded and you get them sent out and you have them for a couple of weeks. They might look on the surface like, oh, that's not relevant for me. Try not to go there, because there will still be magic little bits in there that you'll suddenly think, oh, that's really helpful, I can do that. So for the sake of, if the support mechanisms and everything else are not available to you, just being able to access those alone will give you something to lean into.
And as you will have seen today, Annie's training is great. I'm gonna end with this, Annie, from just a comment from somebody. Thank you so much for such a fabulous session. This was a breath of fresh air. I feel really listened to and understood.
Good. I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased. And I hope all of you found some peace in there as well somewhere and really helped to validate yourself. So thank you.
So thank you everyone for joining this afternoon. Thank you so much for Annie, for your session this afternoon, your support to this organisation. And the session will be available to listen to from early-ish next week. If you would like a copy of the handouts, you can email me, kath.shear@cfcs.org.uk, and that will be sent out to you next week as well. So thanks very much, everyone, and bye.